Welcome back to this journey. Thank you for taking a moment in the middle of all the noise out there to sit down, to listen, and to step with me into a story that is truly special. Have you ever wondered if a single zodiac sign could change the destiny of all humanity? A prophecy whispered since the 16th century, from Nostradamus, the legendary prophet who believed that Aries, the very first fire of the zodiac, carries within it the power to turn the world upside down. And today, together, we'll search for the answer, beginning with the mysterious path of Nostradamus and the flame of prophecy he entrusted to Aries. Have you ever wondered if a single zodiac sign could truly change the fate of all humanity? It sounds almost unreal, yet it touches something deep in the human heart. Because each of us, whether we believe in the stars or not, carries the same longing inside to know the path, to find the strength to uncover the true meaning of existence. More than 500 years ago, in a Europe shaken by plague, by wars, by a darkness heavy as the sky itself, there was a man who dared to look further. His name was Nostradamus, a physician, an astrologer, a soul bound both to science and to the mysteries of the universe. People remember him not only for his healing hands, but for the strange prophecies he left behind, written in cryptic verses that still send shivers centuries later. He wrote of war, of revolution, of collapse, and of rebirth. And among those hundreds of visions, he carried a very particular belief that one sign, one fire of the zodiac, held the power to alter the destiny of the world. That sign was Aries. Aries, the very first spark on the wheel of the zodiac, the fire that opens every cycle. If the 12 signs form the circle of life, Aries is the dawn, the beating drum at the moment of creation, the first flame to pierce the darkness. Nostradamus believed that it is here at the very beginning that humanity would find the strength to step out of despair and ignite new eras. In Buddhism, I remember a teaching: every beginning is sacred because without beginnings, nothing can ever continue. And I believe that is why Nostradamus placed his trust in Aries, because Aries represents the courage to step across the old threshold, to tear apart the night, and to call the light back home. Picture it with me, a small seed hidden deep in the earth, all around it darkness, heavy soil pressing down, 1,000 dangers waiting to crush it. Yet the seed still dares to break open, to rise, to push against the weight, to seek the sun. That is the spirit of Aries. A beginning does not need to be perfect, it only needs to be brave. And sometimes one courageous step from Aries is enough to carve a path the whole world may follow. Perhaps, deep down, each of us carries a spark of Aries, because who among us has not stood at the edge of a new beginning, at a crossroads, when the whole world says you can't, but your heart whispers, try. And in that moment, the Aries flame inside you flickers alive. When Nostradamus wrote of Aries, I believe he wasn't speaking only of those born in March or April. He was speaking of a symbol of courage itself, of the fire that never goes out, of the soul that dares to speak the first word, to take the first step, to strike a spark of hope when the world is drowning in darkness. In Buddhism, there is a truth I often reflect on. Every beginning carries both pain and joy. Like fire, it can burn, but it can also warm. Aries is that fire, at times fierce, at times restless, yet if guided, it becomes the very power that shapes a new era. Nostradamus saw it. He knew that when the world needed renewal, Aries would rise to open the way. Do you see it too? That your beginning, no matter how small, can become the spark for something greater. Leaving behind an old job, walking away from a toxic love, daring to speak truth when silence feels safer. Each of these is Aries moving through you. Like a small seed, you may not know how far you'll go, but the moment you begin with courage, you've already won. So often in life, we fear beginnings because we believe we're not ready. We wait for the perfect moment, for the certainty that no mistakes will be made. But the truth is, there is no perfect beginning, only a brave one. And that is the spirit Nostradamus wanted the world to learn from Aries. So if you are listening now, ask yourself, what have you delayed out of fear? What is it you long to start but haven't yet dared? Perhaps today, hearing this prophecy is the moment to let your Aries flame ignite. Because you don't need to see the entire road ahead. You only need the courage to take the first steps. And that, above all, is the lesson Nostradamus entrusted to Aries. A beginning does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be brave. But why? Why did Nostradamus place his faith so fully in Aries? Why did he believe that the flame of the ram could change the destiny of mankind? The answer lies not only in the power of beginnings, but in the very symbol of Aries itself, the ram who dares to walk first, no matter the cost. There are images in the universe that move the heart the moment we see them, and one of those images is Aries, the ram who leads the way, unafraid of the mountain heights, unafraid of the valleys below, always ready to charge forward. People often think of sheep as gentle, easily led, but Aries is not that. The ram of this symbol is the one who goes first, who chooses the path no one else dares, leaving the very first footprints on a cliff no one has ever climbed. Picture this with me: a misty dawn high on a mountain ridge. Ahead lies sharp rock, a slippery path, the fog hiding any way forward. The flock behind waits in hesitation, but the lead ram with clear eyes and a fearless heart steps out anyway, one step at a time, pressing into the thorns, carving out a path that did not exist before. And in that very moment, the image of Aries becomes clear, the pioneer carrying courage not only for itself, but for everyone who follows. In Buddhism, there is a teaching called the Bodhisattva path, the one who accepts hardship, who walks the rocky road first, so that others may walk in peace. Aries, as the lead ram, carries that same spirit, not afraid of failure, not afraid of wounds, because what matters is not whether glory belongs to them, but that the road they walk will shine a light for those who come after. And if we listen to the Bible, we hear a similar image. Jesus is called the Lamb of God. He accepted sacrifice, bore the wounds to open the path of salvation for humanity. The ram of Aries, the one who goes first, carries within it that same sacred thread, the strength of sacrifice, the power of courage, and the gift of faith. To walk ahead often means to face loneliness, but it is also the mission given by God and by the universe. Have you ever seen yourself in that image? That moment when you had to take the first step while the whole world still doubted? When family, friends, maybe even society looked at you with worried eyes asking, "Are you sure this is the right way?" And yet inside you knew, if no one begins, no one will ever see the sunrise. That is the spirit of Aries. In life, there are seasons when the road ahead feels impossible, but it is in those very moments that we need someone to step forward, someone who is not afraid of being hurt, not afraid of being mocked, not afraid of walking alone. That person becomes the one who opens the way for the community, for the family, for the whole tribe. That person is Aries. You may be born under Aries, or you may not, but the energy of the lead ram exists in all of us. It rises when you dare to be the first to speak the truth, when you dare to stand up for the weak, when you begin a new journey even if you don't know what the future will bring. And later, when you look back, you realize your courage gave hope to many others. Nostradamus believed this is why Aries was the key to transformation, because throughout history, the world has always needed those who go first. Without them, humanity would remain stuck in fear, in stagnation, in the endless cycle of yesterday. Aries comes to break that cycle, to ignite, to open, to set fire to the path of humanity. And sometimes, to truly live the spirit of Aries, you must learn to accept loneliness, because the lead ram always climbs first, always takes the falling stones before the flock can safely pass. Yet even in that solitude, the light of God and the compassion of the universe shines upon you, reminding you that you are never truly alone. Aries is the call to everyone who feels born to be a pathfinder. Have you ever felt your heart urging you to do something different, even when no one believed in you? If your answer is yes, then you have touched the prophetic flame Nostradamus once saw in Aries. And it is from this very symbol that Nostradamus declared, Aries carries within it the qualities powerful enough to change all of humanity. But what are those qualities? And why do they matter so deeply? Let's take the next step and uncover the 3 core traits that give Aries the power to change the world. There was something Nostradamus once wrote in his prophecies. When humanity walks into darkness, the light does not come from the crowd, but from the single flames that dare to burn. And to him, Aries was that flame, not because they are stronger than everyone else, but because they carry within them 3 qualities, 3 pillars that can change the world, 3 qualities that uphold the pioneering mission of Aries. The first is courage. Aries' courage is not the loud, boastful kind. It rises from a heart that refuses to bow to fear. Think about your own life. How many times have you wanted to act, but stop because of worry? Most people choose safety. They wait for someone else to go first. But Aries stands up. They speak words no one has spoken. They do what no one dares to do. They are like the one who steps first into the freezing water, just to prove the whole group can cross. That courage doesn't just save themselves. It opens the way for others. In Buddhism, there's a teaching that says, to be free of fear is a form of liberation. When you overcome fear, you become free. Aries is the living image of that freedom. And just as Jesus faced the cross, not to prove his strength, but to show humanity that love and courage can triumph over death, so too Aries teaches us that courage is not just about survival. It is about giving life. The second quality of Aries is creativity. If courage helps them step out of the dark, creativity is the torch that lights the way. Aries is not just a fighter. They are a creator. They look at what is old and ask, why not something new? They explode with ideas. They break molds that have become too small. Often their creativity makes them misunderstood, sometimes even criticized. But without the dreamers who dared to imagine differently, would we have art, science, inventions that changed our lives? I believe Aries' creativity is not just found on a stage, in a lab, or on a blueprint. It's in the way they live. They find solutions where others see walls. They turn failure into lessons, wounds into inspiration. That kind of fire can warm an entire world. And finally, the third quality, unyielding will. Because courage without will burns out too soon. Creativity without persistence stays a dream. What makes Aries different is their rare endurance. They fall, and they rise, they fail, and they try again. For them, the path does not end at an obstacle. It ends only when they choose to stop. In Buddhism, there is the word diligence, to keep moving forward on the path no matter how many times you stumble. The will of Aries is that same diligence, steady, patient, refusing to give up. And when combined with compassion, their will is not harsh or rigid, but a sacred flame that can guide humanity. Now imagine these three qualities, courage, creativity, and will, like three candles burning together. Alone, each flame is small, but when united, they become a torch strong enough to light a long road ahead. Aries carries that torch, and within each of us, if we can nurture these three qualities, we too can become a light for our own life and for the lives around us. So I ask you, are you keeping your inner flame of courage alive, or letting fear put it out? Do you allow yourself to create, or do you bind yourself in old habits? Do you persist in what you believe, or do you give up before the result comes? Your answers reveal how brightly the Aries fire lives within you. Nostradamus saw this centuries ago. He believed these three qualities would be the key for Aries to change the world. And from that, we learn a lesson for all of humanity. Courage is not just for yourself. It is the path that opens the way for many. When one person rises, 1,000 more find the way forward. So when the world falls into crisis, how will Aries use these gifts? That is when the prophecy begins to unfold. There are moments in history when darkness seems to swallow the sky, when war breaks out and people point guns at each other instead of holding hands, when climate change makes the earth groan in fury, storms, droughts, floods, when society breaks apart, hearts close down, and the bridges between souls begin to collapse. In times like that, the world doesn't just need words of comfort. It doesn't just need tears of sympathy. It needs a flame fierce, decisive, strong enough to break the cycle. And Nostradamus believed that flame is Aries. Aries is the pioneer. When the crowd hesitates, Aries steps forward. When fear silences the room, Aries speaks. When confusion ties everyone in knots, Aries takes action. That is the power the world needs in its darkest hours. Compassion is sacred, but compassion alone is not enough. Someone has to turn empathy into action. Someone has to raise the first flag so others will know that hope still lives, that there is still a way. In Buddhism, there is a path called the Noble Eightfold Path. One step is right action, the call to act with truth and integrity. Because words may be beautiful and thoughts may be kind, but if they never turn into action, they are just seeds lying dormant in dry soil. Aries by nature is the living symbol of right action. They don't stop at intention. They don't get stuck in endless thought. They move, and that movement changes the flow of everything. Picture a forest on fire. Everyone is panicked, crying, waiting for someone to come save them. Then one person runs forward with a bucket of water, small maybe, but enough to show it's possible to fight back. That's Aries. Their fire doesn't just burn away danger, it lights up hope. Because in a crisis, the real danger is not the event itself, it's paralysis. When people lose faith, they stop moving. They shrink into fear. But Aries, with raw courage, with explosive energy, breaks that paralysis. They are the hand pulling others out of quicksand, the drumbeat that rallies the village forward, the torch that cuts through the thickest night. I remember a teaching from the Bible: faith without works is dead, and Aries is living proof of faith in action. They don't sit quietly in prayer alone. They turn prayer into steps, into strength, into motion. And in an age where trust is collapsing, what humanity needs most are souls like that. Maybe you've lived through your own dark night, when sickness came, when family fell apart, when your career crumbled. And in that moment, maybe someone came to you, held your hand, offered food, or simply looked into your eyes with faith that you could keep going. That is Aries. And maybe, at some point, you were the one who did that for someone else. You see, the fire of Aries isn't always about grand battles. Sometimes it's as simple as a voice daring to speak when all others stay silent. Sometimes it's the first step into a place no one else will walk. And it's those small, defiant acts that end up rewriting destiny for an entire community. That's the lesson Aries carries for us. To dare to rise, even if it's just one small step, can ignite courage in everyone watching. Your flame, no matter how small, can be the first spark that shatters the night. And once one light is lit, it always finds a way to spread. So let me ask you, have you ever lived through a dark time and it was one single act of courage, yours or someone else's, that changed everything? If so, share that story, because your story may be the flame someone else is searching for right now. And to show us this is not just theory, Nostradamus left his signs written through history. There's something strange in the history of humankind. The greatest shifts rarely begin with the crowd. They start with a few souls, sometimes alone, who dare to think differently, live differently, and act differently. Nostradamus saw this long before we did. He believed Aries, the pioneer of the zodiac, would be the chosen ones to plant the seeds of new eras. And when we look back, their mark on humanity's evolution is undeniable. Think of Leonardo da Vinci, an Aries whose imagination lived centuries ahead of his time. While the world was still painting stiff religious images, he brought into art the breath of the body, the play of light, the spark of soul. He was a painter, a scientist, an engineer, a man whose very breath seemed to create innovation. Da Vinci refused to accept the world as it was. He painted a world that could fly, a world where human beings could rise beyond their own limits. And isn't that the spirit of Aries? Breaking the old, opening doors to what had never been seen before. And then, Maya Angelou, an Aries who carried the fire of poetry and truth. Born into a society thick with injustice, division, and generational pain, she refused to be silent. Her voice in poetry, in prose, and the trembling sound of her readings shook millions of hearts awake. She turned her private suffering into collective strength, her wounds into a call for justice, for compassion. In Buddhism, this is the path of the Bodhisattva, transforming suffering into seeds of awakening for others. Maya lived exactly that. Her Aries fire didn't just burn, it illuminated, it healed. And then, look at Lady Gaga, a modern Aries flame. Through music, through fashion, through her very life, she shattered the molds that trap people in fear and judgment. Gaga dared to be different. She dared to be real. She became a mirror for fragile souls out there, teaching them, you have the right to exist exactly as you are. In her world, love and freedom are fire. Like a bodhisattva wrapped in pop armor, Gaga lit a path for a generation to love boldly and to live free. And then, Robert Downey Jr., an Aries marked by rebirth. He once sank into darkness, rejected by society, even by himself. But as a living emblem of Aries, he refused to let the past define him. He stood up, began again, and rose to become a cinematic icon. He gave us Iron Man, not just a suit of steel, but a symbol of resilience and the hunger to live fully. He showed us that failure is never the end. It is the fall that makes the Aries flame burn even brighter. So you see, from Da Vinci to Angelou, from Gaga to Downey Jr., each carried the Aries fire. They refused to accept the world as it was. They kept asking, how could the world be different? They didn't just live for themselves. They carved a way for millions to follow. They became living proof of the prophecy Nostradamus once whispered to the future. In Buddhism, there's a beautiful image. Whoever lights the wisdom of others, whoever awakens another's heart, is a bodhisattva, and Aries through their fire carry that very seed. They go first, not for their own glory, but to hand humanity the chance to go further, to rise higher. The lesson here is not to sit and admire the greats. It's to realize that even in our small, ordinary lives, we can live the Aries spirit. We can begin something new in our family. We can rise up in our community. We can speak the words that need to be spoken at work. You don't need to be Da Vinci or Maya Angelou. Even a single honest flame in your corner of the world can spread, can ripple, can change everything. Perhaps this is why Nostradamus entrusted his vision to Aries, because he knew to open a new age, humanity needs those who refuse to accept the present as it is, those who can glimpse the potential of the future and bring it into being. But Nostradamus wasn't only speaking of the great ones in history. He was speaking to us. Here today, there are moments when we sit alone in the night, looking back at life, and suddenly the wounds, the failures, the unfinished paths all feel heavy on our shoulders. In that silence, many believe they've lost their way, that they no longer have the strength to begin again. But you know, Nostradamus left us a message. Aries is not just a zodiac sign. It is an energy that lives inside each of us. And the moment we call its name, it ignites. Aries is not far away. It rises the moment you dare to start again after a fall. It appears when you stand up to protect someone weaker. It breathes through an idea you dare to share, through a decision you dare to make even if no one stands beside you. That flame is life itself urging you forward, refusing stagnation, refusing the darkness. In Buddhism, there's a truth called Buddha nature, the seed of awakening in every human heart. And in astrology, there is the Aries flame. It may sleep quietly for years, but when awakened, it makes you the pioneer, not only for your own life, but for the world around you. You may wonder, I wasn't born under Aries. Do I still have that fire? The answer is yes, because the Aries flame doesn't belong to a birth date. It's a symbol, a call meant for everyone. When you dare to begin again, when you dare to act, when you dare to be the light in a dark room, you are living with the Aries spirit. You become the living proof of Nostradamus' prophecy. So ask yourself, are you holding a forgotten dream in your heart? A decision you once longed to make, but buried in fear? Have you ever felt life pushing you into the dark, yet deep within a whisper keeps calling? Stand up, if you have. That is the Aries fire in you rising to be heard. You don't need to change the whole world. Just light up one corner, because darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can. And when you become that light for someone else, you've already begun transforming the world, I believe. Sometimes a single small act of yours can change a life. A kind word at the right moment, a hand reaching out, a smile in the middle of a storm. All of these are ways the Aries flame awakens and spreads. And in every step, remember this, that flame is not meant to destroy, but to warm, not to boast, but to guide, not only to carry you through, but to help others see the path as well. That is the deepest meaning of the Aries mission. In Nostradamus' vision, can you feel the Aries flame inside you? Tell your story, because sometimes your experience may be the light that gives someone else hope. And when we share our flames together, the light will never die. Thank you for listening and for walking this journey with me. May light and the courage of fire always guide you on your path.